Hello, good morning. My name is Luisa, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast, Stories with Luisa. What do you do? Here we talk what people are doing for a living, about the professions, businesses, and companies. If you're still wondering what career path to choose or you're thinking about the change, this podcast is for you. I hope that it will help you to make a decision or inspires you to change, to take action if you think that it's time for a change. Today, my guest is Daniel. Thank you very much for accepting invitation to my podcast. It's great to have you here. If you could introduce yourself and if you could tell what do you do?
Hi, my name's Daniel. I am a sound editor and re-recording mixer based in London.
Thank you. Daniel, if you could tell how did it all start? Did you know that you want to do it from the beginning, or what made you become interested in this?
Sure. So I'd always had an interest in sound. It started off with music. I come from a family where I have a sister who's an opera singer, so I think music and audio was kind of always in my life. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do after school, was in a bit of a pickle of where to go. I studied music technology and a bit of music and kind of realised that exactly wasn't for me. So after I finished my undergraduate, which was in media and multimedia production, I decided to do a postgraduate in post-production and sound design. And during that year, I just worked on a bunch of short films in audio and just loved it. And like after that year, I was just, that's what I want to do. And so from there, I knew that I wanted to pursue that career, and I moved down to London, started off as a runner. That was 13 years ago, and I've been slowly working my way up into the position that I'm in now, and I haven't looked back since, really.
Wow, amazing story that you started and you're still keeping on this track. If you could say more about what were the most interesting subject at the university or where you studied?
Yeah. So part of the university course that I did was all about making sound for film. And so what I found to be one of the most interesting parts was actually creating new sounds. I remember we had to do a clip for a creature. And I just remember finding it really creative to try and find a voice for this creature. And that was one of the modules that I was really focused on, really interested in what kind of we call now, it's like effects editing. So any kind of sound design effects, that's kind of what I'm really interested in. And so when I was lucky enough to do it at university and kind of play around with stuff like that, I just found it the most creative thing that I could do. And that was all I wanted to do after that.
Yeah, I personally admire you that you chose your path and you stick to it and you like it, you like your job, what you are doing. And if you could describe what your job looks like? Do you have any typical day, week or month, or how does it look like from behind the scene? Because sometimes we are seeing the effects, but if you could describe how it looks like behind the scene.
Yeah. So I just kind of take you through a typical kind of project. So because we're in post-production that I work in, so the film has been shot, a picture editor has put everything together, and when it comes to us in post-production for sound, there are kind of three main areas that we focus on, specifically at the company I work at. So we have what's called dialogue editing, effects editing, and then mixing. So I kind of do a little bit of all three of those jobs, but I mainly focus on effects editing and re-recording, mixing. So basically a project will last, let's say, about 6 weeks in sound editorial. So for dialogue editors, that's putting all the dialogue from set and cleaning it up and making sure that it's all smooth and at a right level for mixers to mix later. Effects editing is all of the backgrounds that you might hear. So think birds, think kind of winds, atmospheric sounds like that. And including kind of what we call spot effects. Which is basically anything from a door opening to a gunshot or an explosion.
Wow.
So during those 6 weeks, we're putting all of those sounds together. And after those kind of, let's say 6 weeks, it's kind of typical. After those 6 weeks, we are doing what's called mixing. So we will first start with a week of making sure all the dialogue hits the right level. So we are mixing theatrically. So think for cinemas, think for that kind of size of room. And making sure that the dialogue can be heard and is clean and is intelligible for the audience. Secondly, we'll do a week of what's called effects pre-mixing, which is taking all the ambiences that the track layer effects editor has laid, making sure they're at the right level compared to the dialogue, in like audio level wise. And then any spot effects that you make, so like I said, gunshots or explosions, is all at a healthy level, right level compared to the dialogue. And then we have, let's say, it's all project dependent, but let's say 7 days of what we call final mixing. Here we'll get the music, that will be balanced in as well against the dialogue and effects. And you'll play it towards the director, and the director will kind of give you notes, or producers will give you notes. And you're just kind of looking to create the final project of the film so that you're telling the story in the best way that you can from an audio perspective. And at the end of the day, at the end of the project, we just want to make sure that the director is happy and that we're happy with our own work and that it does its best in telling that story from an audio perspective as well to the audience.
Yeah, amazing. It seems a lot of work. So this is like a lot of work related to this post-production. And how do you know that this is like the final effect is for acceptance? How do you know that, okay, we will not change, we will not update? If you could say something about this.
Absolutely. So in terms of, let's kind of speak about two things. In terms of dialogue editing, obviously what they've put in the edit, picture editor wise, will be what's in the final film. Unless there are additional lines. So we'll get actors come back in and they will re-record lines or bring in new lines that help towards plot. So you will go through with those with the director and make sure that they are happy and that narratively what you've re-recorded makes sense for the narrative. And then in terms of effects, I mean, there are kind of stock things that you might go for, so typical kind of wood doors like we've got behind us. If that's opening, you kind of know the kind of sound what it has. Location wise, there's going to be typical things that you hear, birds in certain regions, in certain countries. You're going to kind of make sure that you have the right birds for that location and the right kind of winds for kind of what's going on. And then you kind of get your more what I'd say is the kind of tougher aspect of sound editing, sound effects design, in terms of like, let's think about creatures.
Then suddenly...
So typically at the start of a project, you'll have a meeting with the director of the film, and they might give you some inspiration as to what they think the creature should sound like. Or, you know, let's say a robot or something, they might say, oh, I really liked the robot from Wall-E. I'd like it to kind of sound in a similar way to that.
Great! We'll try one of everything.
And so you'll kind of have your inspiration and go from there. And typically, again, through those 6 weeks of editing, you'll kind of have a bit of back and forth with the director in terms of, look, this is what I've created based upon your brief. What do you think? And they'll kind of give back notes, and you'll do another round with them and maybe try a few different things and send that back to them as well. Have them come in and listen to things. So it's a dialogue that kind of carries on throughout the whole editorial process. You know, we're constantly checking in with the director and saying, are you happy with this? Is this what you're thinking? Is this how you imagined it to sound? And if not, is there any other direction you can give us? Because, you know, we're making their vision. The director's been on this for a long time, and they've seen it through, you know, pre-production, production, and now they're in post. So ultimately, we want to make sure that their vision and what they have in mind is coming to life. So we're doing our best to accommodate that and make sure that it sounds and it's like sounding right to how it looks.
Yeah, and this is like you are primary working in the studio, right? There is like a studio with this. How does it look like? If you could describe, maybe not a lot of people are having the contact with a sound editor.
Yeah, I mean, basically, so sound editorial, you might have a smallish studio, typically kind of what we call 5-1. So it's 5 speakers surround sound, and then one speaker for low frequency effects is what we call. And so you'll have your screen at the front, your editorial kind of desk here with your computer using Pro Tools, and then in terms of kind of speakers, we've got left, center, right, and then 2 surround speakers, left and right surround, and then the sub. And these kind of typically in like a kind of smaller room. And then when we come to mixing, I mean, it's basically like thinking a cinema. So essentially, you can mix in rooms kind of that are up to cinema size and kind of smaller. But it's basically, if we're mixing theatrically, if it's going to be released in cinemas, that's where we want to be able to listen to it to make sure that we're actually getting the sound that kind of works in that environment.
Yeah, great. It's like you have a good environment to create. And what do you enjoy most about what you do? What gives you a satisfaction? What drives you? If you could tell us more about this.
Yeah. So I think for me, I've always loved kind of creating new sounds. I like creature sounds, and like any sounds that don't exist in reality, I love. I'll be honest, it's like sometimes it can be a bit of a steep hill to find what will work. For instance, I worked on the animation series a couple of years ago, and every episode had some new creature in, something new to kind of tackle each week. And so you had to really kind of think, oh, what's going to work for this? And, there'd be a lot of playing around and going, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. And you're playing around with different sounds, different kind of versions. And what I find most like satisfying is actually finding the sound that works, and finding something that I go, I think that's it. I think that matches what is on picture. I think this is working with the character, let's say. And it's even more satisfaction is when you show that to the director and they go, that's perfect, I love it. or I mean, sorry, not perfect maybe, but that's what I want. That's exactly how I had it in my mind. That pleases me more. That's making them happy and kind of realizing, yeah, this is how it would sound in that world.
Yes, and I see and I hear that you really like your job and you really like what you are doing. So it's amazing that you chose and you are still keeping the things which gives you, joy. And are there any things which you like less, or is there something you find frustrating or difficult? Yeah, because maybe there are some aspects which create difficulties or you like less.
I guess in the same manner, it's finding those sounds to begin with in something you know will work can be quite frustrating at times. I mean, I have sat and looked at my computer and looked at, let's say, Creature and kind of gone, I do not know what I'm going to do for this. There was a feature animation that I finished working on in the summer, and there was this one character, and I'd been working on this for about maybe 8 months or so, on and off. And I kept on looking at this character and going, I do not know what to do, what will sound right for this character. It was kind of a little kind of paper trumpet character. You'd have to see it, but I just remember thinking it needs some sound because it needs to mimic what this little boy's doing in this film, and just taking ages to think of something that will actually work. And I just remember being quite frustrated about it because nothing was coming to my head until eventually I found this one idea. You kind of do a little bit of research as well of how people have done it, and if you're lucky, you'll find something that works for you as well. But that kind of time spent thinking, I do not know what to do. I do not know where to start. It can be quite frustrating. But again, so satisfying when you actually find something that is like perfect or kind of works for that character.
Yeah. So you don't feel well until you find the perfect sound. So it's just like you need to feel good about this, or the ending of your art.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what are the key skills and traits needed to perform well in this job? And if you could describe, because I know that you have to have the ear for the sound, and also focus and. But if you could describe.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously kind of like listening skills and kind of critical listening is a massive, of massive importance. Essentially, in post-production, it is kind of like a service industry, like I said. We are, the client is our director, producers, so our job is to make them happy. So you've got to have really good kind of personable skills, speaking to directors, editors, and kind of getting across your views and taking on their views in a positive light, and just being able to interpret like what someone else is describing to you of how they want it. So yeah, I kind of say the main things, good listening skills, good personable skills, and just kind of being, I think, enjoying kind of what you're doing is a massive part of it, and kind of having directors that have that faith in you is kind of what you needed. So again, speaking to lots of people is a key part that you kind of don't think about until later on in the line.
So you have to have a communication skills, and you also have to communicate your own vision.
Yeah.
Have you ever been into the situation when you had a different vision than producer or director, and you wanted to, let's say, influence the final decision? Or have you been in such situation?
Yeah, I think it would be impossible not to be in that situation a couple of times. I mean, you kind of have... The director will have been through things through so many times and so many iterations and so many different versions of the film. And when they make their guide track, they will have kind of a sound in mind or a way of presenting it in mind that they want. And sometimes, because we do prep work up until the final mix, we'll be playing around with ideas, and yes, we'll try and mimic what they've done and kind of excel what they've done as well. And you'll have an idea that you think might work maybe like not better, but in a different way to try and tell the story. And there's been times where we've presented ideas to directors or producers, and they've liked it, but it's not quite been what they wanted. So you kind of have to, you just, there's no, you don't want an ego, I think, because you're going to have ideas, and yes, sometimes they might work, and sometimes they might go, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that, and actually it works. And sometimes they might go, no, I do want to play it this way instead. And I think you just need to be kind of, okay, it's their film, you're trying to do your best for them. And you can have influence and make suggestions, and you may have done things in the past on other films that you think has really worked, and you can try them, and that's kind of what the mixing stage is about, is you're trying new ideas, trying out different things that will work and for the narrative of the film. But ultimately, you are trying to kind of create the director's dream and kind of what they want. So I think suggestions are good, and they're healthy, and it's good to be collaborative in this process. But you ultimately want to do what is best for the film. And I think most of the time, everyone in the mixing room, when you get there, you have mixers, editors, directors, producers, and whatnot, all want the same for the film. They all want the best, and everyone will have a different version in their head of what might work, but collaboratively, that's how you're working to engineer this film to play the narrative and tell the story.
Yeah, thank you. So you have to have influencing skills, and also the compromise is sometimes important. Yeah. And who would not thrive in this profession? I know that you already said what are the skills and necessary, but who would not thrive in this profession?
I think if you don't love it, I think if you go into it and you don't love what you're doing, I think you're going to be struggling a little bit, because there can be some long days, there can be some long hours, there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, and I think if you don't love it, I think that you're going to struggle. I think people get into the industry, into the film industry, because they want to, because it's something that they're passionate about and they kind of want to pursue. And I think if you try to go into it and you kind of aren't really enjoying it, I don't think you're going to. I don't think it's maybe it's not right for you, or maybe you haven't found the thing that you want to do in the industry. Maybe it's something else. I know lots of people who have started off wanting to do sound editorial, sound post, and then have gone and realised, oh, this isn't for me, and tried something else. The same with kind of like aspects within sound. I know some people who have wanted to start off to be re-recording mixers, just by that, like on their own, and then after doing it for a little bit, actually realise they want to do editorial, and vice versa. People who've done editorial and then want to go to mixing instead. So you can kind of carve your way, but I think if you don't love it and you're not passionate about it, I think you're going to struggle and think, what, it's just a film. Why am I kind of working so hard? But when you do love it, you're like, even regardless of like how good the film is, you're just going to have a good time on it.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah, I think that you tell the truth about this, that this is not like a final effect. Final effect is, it's like we see and it seems simple, but that's a lot of work behind the scene.
Absolutely.
And is there anything you wish you had known earlier? So what advice you would give to your younger self, or someone who would like to start this career path?
Yeah. On a very personal note, I think, because I've been in the industry for about 13 years now, and when I started, I think I was in such a rush to kind of get where I wanted to go, and there was a lot of kind of, it's a creative industry, and it's so competitive out there, and you have friends who work in it as well, and everyone kind of goes up at their own pace, and I think when you're younger, you maybe don't kind of take that into consideration, and you can kind of get envious of other people's kind of like career progressions and their kind of like how they've risen up through the ranks and kind of things like that. That as you kind of get older, you kind of just go, well, actually, we progress at our own pace, and it's okay that other people are kind of doing other things, and it's just kind of taking yourself aside and being able to go, look, I'm only competing against myself. I don't need to be jealous or envious of other people. The only person I'm competing with is myself, and to try and be better. And I do wish that I knew that a bit earlier on in my career, in terms of just for mental health. Like, I think you can get so bogged down with concentrating on other people and their successes that you kind of forget where your successes are and where you've come from. And I think it's important to not compete with other people in that capacity, and just think, what can I do that is good for me, and what's my pace of kind of getting better and what I do and progressing.
Yes, I think that you said a very important thing, that we shouldn't compare ourselves to others, and we have to trust our own path and own pace of career, of life, and not forget where we started and what we were doing. So amazing, and I think that's very important, because for mental health it's very important. Because there will be always someone who is on the higher level, have more money, more successful. And if we focus not on ourselves, on our journey, it may be difficult, yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if you could give us a closing message, or, motto, or what is important for you, it would be great.
Sure. I think, if you're interested in kind of going into post-production sound specifically, just get out there and work on stuff. Like, the only way that you're going to progress and get better at it and learn is just by doing. Like, I don't think there's any other way. When you start early on in your career, you will spend a lot of time watching someone else do something, and there's a lot to be learnt about that. But putting yourself out there, trying to learn it yourself, and kind of actually doing stuff is always going to be beneficial, and it's always going to be helpful. And I think in terms of kind of motto, I mean, I always just think you can go too far with things. For instance, if you're putting together, let's say, a fight scene, and you've got people punching, you're laying up loads of punch sounds for that, and you can have lots of different sounds that will make up that one sound, but you can go too far. And I think simplicity is key. And I think if it sounds right, it is right. I think that's the kind of thing that you have to realize. You can go too far, and you can definitely kind of overplay things, and that can take up a lot of time that could be spent doing other things. So if it sounds right, it's right. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was amazing speaking with you. I'm very happy that I had Daniel, who is the sound editor from London. It's like amazing to have you here, because you are in Kraków. This is like the first time in Kraków, in Poland. So once again, thank you very much. And if you have any questions to Daniel, just leave the comments, questions, and it will be answered.
Great. Yep. Thank you for having me. And this is a beautiful city. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, cool to hear. Thank you. See you next time.